Let's rank altcoins from a 5x all the way up to a 50x with my thoughts and opinions along the way. Just remember, price predictions are the highest possible price a coin can reach, in my opinion, so don't try to sell at a price prediction. It's my best guess on today's prices. Anything can, of course, change, and this is all in the name of fun. So you're probably a little excited right now because the markets are once again awake. Just a minute of silence for all the people who were telling you were dumb for holding and not panic selling. But let's not forget, a lot of people are still in disbelief. And that's because I think we are still in stage one where most people are emotionally beaten. And I don't think we actually have most of these people being truly convinced we have alt season coming until ETH breaks all-time highs. You can see over here. And when we go into stage two, where caution remains elevated. But just remember, that's likely too late. The game of crypto is completely about gambling. At this current stage in the market, the odds are very much so in our favor. But as the market starts going higher and higher, that risk increases and the reward goes down. But right now, the risk to reward ratio is heavily in our favor, but that's hard for most people because they're still emotional after being tossed around more than Riley Reid in the last 2 years. Just remember, being too late in stage 3 means you miss out on the big gains, but have a lot more risk. So, today's rankings, we're going from not even the slightest of bloody clues right up to a 50x. And in my usual fashion, we probably have too many coins to cover. So, of course, I'm not going to be able to spend more than even 30 seconds on some of these coins. So I do apologize. Of course, my multiples are what I think the coin can do as of today. If you'd like, I'll just run through all of the coins now. So those of you who are interested can screenshot the prices on the coins, because I don't want to hear why in 3 weeks, if a coin is not doing well or doing super well, if the multiples are still viable. Of course, this is tentative, which means only really valid for the next 24 hours. And then we'll have to do a new one of these in a few weeks or a month. But if you do want up-to-date price predictions without waiting a month or 2 months for the next one of these videos, you can do me a massive favor and follow me on my new Instagram account. I'll leave the link down below. So I'll be keeping you up to date on these price predictions, and I'll be making specialized content on Instagram well before I even talk about stuff over here on YouTube. Just be very careful. There are a lot of fake accounts on Instagram pretending to be me. We just started this account, so make sure if you do want to support the channel and get those predictions early, to go use the link in the description only. Thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, guys, I do have the best intentions with these videos. While they're fun, while I love making these videos, you can see here the hardest part about crypto is in fact selling. So make sure you sell well before these price predictions. The way that you can do this is by taking the price prediction that I think, or again, other people think, this is non-financial advice, right? Let's say it's Aave, $3,000. Okay, use the GGR zones we have available in the private community, okay? This tool right here is available to use, where we would essentially come down about 35%, ignoring this red zone and the gray zone here, and trying to sell in the green zone, aka a liquid zone where there's actually going to be people selling. Now, for those interested in learning about crypto, I follow a Pumpamentals approach. It's my 5-step approach to finding hot coins. Essentially, we look into what narrative or area of the market the cryptocurrency is in. If you go find some coin that no one cares about, let's say it's a coin looking to ship out dog treats, okay? No one cares about that in crypto, unfortunately, right? So it's just never going to gain that much attention as an AI coin by default. Now, what makes an AI coin better than other AI coins is the meme. What's the wow factor? What's the thing that separates that coin from the rest of the noise? Next is popularity. Popularity looks into things like announcements, roadmap events, and marketing strength. So if no one knows about the coin, if there's no marketing, okay, no one's going to buy it. And tokenomics and team are the least important. All we're trying to do here is make sure that the team has a good tokenomic structure and they're decent themselves, because if they're bad, they will impact the performance of the coin. In addition to that, I'll also be using this sheet here, which assesses the yearly performance versus altcoins and lows to now, where essentially we look at the dominance of the coin, like Aave here. Okay, so from January, it's actually doing better than the rest of the market. This is Aave versus others. And we can also see here from the lows to where it is right now, it's done well as well. I know you guys like itching right now, like give us the price predictions. I'm going to make it worth your while. Before I do, I've got to say, I know a lot of you guys are missing out in this bull run because essentially you're not trading with our professional traders. They're even allowing you to copy trade, like Steph's call here on XRP. Okay, he helped me get a 550% gain. They're helping people win. They're allowing you to trade and not just invest and hold passively, but actively get the money and put it in your main bags. And we have an exclusive deal working with Bitunics right now. You can actually make some money back for just depositing crypto into your Bitunics account with the link down below. So $1,000 will get you an extra $200. Now you can even win a Model 3 or a trip to Dubai, plus our rewards we give you on top of that. I love to see your faces in there. We have a great community growing of like-minded people who want to crush this bull run, and I know you'll enjoy it. So again, links down below. Let's get into the video. To kick things off, of course, we start here with Bitcoin. Now, I don't think Bitcoin goes much more, if not barely breaks $300,000, which means it's likely just about a 3x from here. Bitcoin Cash, okay, so obviously I don't think Bitcoin Cash is going to do much more than that either. Bitcoin Cash is just a hard fork of Bitcoin, 10 billion market cap right now. It's never going to do as well as Bitcoin in perpetuity. It's just a faster, cheaper version. It'll always be in Bitcoin's shadow. However, I do think it does more than a 3x, probably no more than a 10x though. Litecoin is very similar. People call it the silver to Bitcoin's gold. You can see here it's a 7 billion market cap. I'm not personally a massive fan of Litecoin. I know people who are, though, who may argue, yes, definitely more than the 10x. You always going to get the maxis of every coin saying it's going to do 100x, right? But I do think it likely does more than Bitcoin Cash. I'd say between a 5 to a 10x. Now, Ethereum is an interesting one. Of course, it belongs in the same category, but I think it actually deserves a spot likely somewhere in between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. I don't see it doing more than $20,000 at its highs, more likely around $15,000, I do think. And in terms of ETH Classic, well, I honestly want to put this in a garbage tier if I possibly could, but I will put it somewhere probably between Bitcoin but under Ethereum. The reason why is this is just like Bitcoin Cash. It's a hard fork of Ethereum on the old proof of work model, but the reason that makes Ethereum so good is all the applications built on it. In my opinion, this will eventually die. So it might make some multiples this bull run, but I wouldn't hold my breath for the future. Next, let's look at the layer 2s themselves. So layer 2s like Arbitrum, Optimism, Matic, Stacks. Stacks is a layer 2 for Bitcoin. Layer 2s as a narrative aren't very sexy, and I think that goes to show just simply because a lot of these coins haven't been performing very well like they used to, but I do think there will likely be a resurgence once ETH breaks all-time highs. Now, Arbitrum, first of all, I do think is probably the most powerful layer 2 right now out of all of these. Arbitrum has the highest TVL excluding base, okay, because a base is actually built on Optimism. So I think Arbitrum definitely between a 10 to 15x. I think Optimism isn't too far behind. The difference is that Arbitrum is a 2 billion market cap, whereas Optimism is a 1 billion market cap. So there might be some more growth potential with Optimism. It's just that as a layer 2 itself, right, Optimism is nowhere near the same TVL numbers as a coin like Arbitrum as a direct competitor. So in my opinion, I do think it does more than a 10x, but does slightly less multiples, even though it's half the market cap of Arbitrum. But again, that could definitely change. Polygon is like one of the first major layer 2s. And if you have a look at their partnerships, right, there's huge. Starbucks, Meta, MasterCard, JP Morgan, Google Cloud, Franklin Templeton. Like Polygon's massive, but it's really been struggling recently. That's, I think, why Sandeep, the guy who created and co-founded it, has actually taken on the CEO role for the foundation. Okay, so obviously, it needs some oomph back into it, but I do think that it has potential to still do quite well. Not as well, I don't think, as the other two. So in my opinion, I think it probably sits around here somewhere. If we have a look at the market cap as well, it is the highest out of all of these three as well. It is 81% down from its all-time high, which may make people a little bit nervous, considering a lot of these coins need to break into price discovery, meaning above their previous all-time high, to go parabolic. So Polygon does have a lot of work to do. Our next layer 2 coin is Stacks. This is a layer 2 now for Bitcoin, unlocking the DeFi capabilities for the project. They also recently partnered here with Wormhole to expand those capabilities across multiple different layer 1s like Solana. So that's great for Stacks because it just allows this project to, of course, have more TVL and therefore be more interesting to more people, right? So I do think this project does pretty decently at a 1.2 billion market cap, probably has some high potential. I do think it does more multiples than Matic, probably somewhere around the multiples of Optimism, around a 13 to 15x. The next coin we have here is Celestia. This coin's really been struggling recently. However, I've noticed on all of the moves the market makes, it tends to do the best, right? Which is kind of weird, but I do have high hopes for it. If you actually have a look at a recent announcement here, it's been chosen to help run the new Athena and Securitize layer 2 that's going to be run on Ethereum as well, right? It's going to be called Convergence Chain. This is massive. It's going to have a high priority on tokenization, launching in the second quarter of this year. Celestia is no joke, 1.3 billion market cap. I do think it breaks all-time highs. I don't think it goes too much higher than all-time highs, though, probably around $40, which is about a 20x, so I do think it swindles its way up to over here. Our next coin is Render at a 2 billion market cap and almost $4. I do think the coin can get to over $100. For the argument of this video to be a little bit pessimistic, I'm going to say 100, which is about a 26x. So it's our first coin above a 20x in this case. They're working with Google, they're working with NVIDIA, they're working with Apple, like genuine partnerships, guys. The next coin we have is probably the most influential, I think, AI project we have in crypto, being artificial super intelligence. The reason why I say that is because the mission that these guys have is to compete with the major Web 2 giants like we have, Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, and so on. In my opinion, I do think that FET reaches a rough price of about $15 to $20, which will put it in the 30x column, probably just about the same as Render. Our next coin is Near, and I do think this coin can hit $50, which is just about a 19 to 20x. So I will put it at the very, very bottom here. You can see the AI coins, again, because they're AI coins, just naturally, I do believe will have more gravitas in this bull market. And I think Near gets there just simply because these guys are looking to reduce inflation on the network, which is fantastic. But most importantly, they're building these things called Near Intents, which is a way that you can use AI across chain to do cross-chain things like swaps. You can see here, Ilya, the co-founder, also had recently taken a photo with Ethereum's founder and co-founder, Vitalik. So something big is coming. While it does have a high market cap of 3.2 billion, does some pretty crazy numbers like Solana in the last cycle. Our next coin here is Flux. Flux is one of the smallest coins on this list, actually the smallest coin at a 92 million market cap. I still believe in it, right? It's like a mini ICP. This coin, I do think, hits around $12 to $15, which is about a 50x or so. I know it seems crazy right now, but if you look at Flux and look at this coin going up a 2 or a 3x from here back to where it was at like $1, for example, it then becomes a 12x. So I just think we're so low because it is a small cap coin. You'll notice all your small caps and your micro caps in your portfolio have suffered the most. They'll also grow the most as well. And I do think Flux is a good candidate for doing that. ICP, I think, does about a 23x and goes to $130, give or take. So it's about a bit more than Near Protocol. The reason why I think it does that is because it literally is transforming the way that we know about Web3, right? It's doing everything front end, back end, all on chain, and it's fast. Plus, they're also launching the biggest AI update of the year, which I think is going to be Caffeine AI. Just a heads up, guys, as well. Now that Bitcoin's breaking through all-time highs, I've taken a couple longs out here on both ICP and Near as well. So again, if you do want to get yourself involved in the trading group and make some bloody multiples, right? Make some money on the way up like we have been, then of course I'll leave all the links down below. Don't miss out on this bull run, guys. You've got to lock in. The next coin moves more into GPU work and decentralized compute, which is Aether over here. These guys also are heading into tokenization and gaming with some of their partnerships. They're smart. So I do think Aether has some growth here with a 300 million market cap. So considering 1/6 of Aether's market cap comes in as annual revenue, yeah, they've got a lot of money to play around with here and they're actually being used. So I do think this coin here is our first in the 30 to 40x column at about a 33x. Now, very similar to Aether, we have a coin called a Cash, okay, so which is decentralized GPU, rent out the hardware. I don't think it does quite as many multiples. I do think probably up towards the high 30x area. The next coin we have here is Potensa, the last AI project. Now, I do think Potensa has growth potential for sure. Most of the AI projects, the larger ones here, so Render, FET, ICP, and Near, they're around a 50 to 60 billion market cap at their highs. And if Potensa were to go to the same market cap, okay, it'd be around about a 12x from here, which ain't that much. And the reason why is because the market cap is substantially higher than even the next highest, which is Near Protocol, okay? So I'm saying this because while there's buzz around Potensa and everyone's loving it and loving it and loving it, be careful in those moments because, again, it's not going to go up forever. So I do think Potensa, while it's a fantastic coin and it definitely has my attention, I do think because it's a bit higher market cap, it probably does a little bit less than Near, probably, high teens in terms of multiples. Let's now get into the gaming coins. Avalanche is a layer 0 / a gaming coin as well. It's actually working with Beam. Beam was once a sort of layer 1 or a subnet underneath AVAX. I do think AVAX, because of the higher market cap, doesn't do as many multiples as Superverse or Beam. So I'm going to put this probably around here, which is probably around a 10 to 12x from these prices. Now, I think IMX does a lot more multiples than that, just simply because IMX is now down to a 1 billion market cap. Very strong coin. It's actually a layer 2 on Ethereum. I think that this project probably does closer to, Potensa over here at, high teens, low 20x. I think Beam will do likely more than that. I think Beam will probably be somewhere up around here towards the high 20s, low 30x's, just because it's a very low market cap. And I do know that this project has like $100 million in their treasury to spend on pushing the project. Now, Superverse is interesting because I'm not too keen on Superverse, I'll be honest. However, I must take into consideration that they are backed by Alex Becker and Elio, which pretty much founded the project. So it's always going to have good marketing. I think it would be disingenuous of me if I didn't put it above a 20x, but I don't think it's quite as high as Beam. So I think around a 25x is probably suitable here. The next coin is Casper. I'm not going to waste much time. The founder spat in our face a few months ago and said that he doesn't need us. That has always left a very sour taste in my mouth. The coin could do a 50x, but I'm not interested in this project, to be honest with you guys, because I take that stuff pretty seriously. All right, I don't like the fact that I'm putting trust in a founder that doesn't take into consideration the fact that Web 3 is how you grow a project, not Web 2, at least for this bull run. Let's get into some storage coins now. So Filecoin, Walrus, and you can't quite see this is Arweave here. So I think out of all of these three, I think Walrus has the best possible growth potential. This is a Myston Labs project, so a SUI project. I think Filecoin is the largest market cap here by a stretch, almost 2 billion. I think it's just a bit outdated, to be honest with you guys. I'm going to put this in low teens, 15 to around a 10x. I'm going to put it just beneath Stacks. Walrus, like I said, I do think this product does pretty well. I'm going to put this in like probably the low 20s, probably I'd probably say just above ICP. Arweave, I think, is a bit weaker than Walrus, but a bit stronger than Filecoin. I'm going to put this in about a 16x from here. Hyperliquid. You Hyperliquid fans have a bone to pick with me because when I first looked at this coin back on my harshest review of Altcoins video, I didn't rank the multiple, I ranked the quality. I said in that video I didn't quite know a lot about it, and I did plead ignorance. So I have looked into it more recently, and I have found the fact that this coin obviously is pretty kick-ass. We have a lot of like these DeFi trading new coins that always come out, and I thought it was another part of the noise basically. But you know, we see the whole James Wynn thing, and we've seen this project be stress tested with large liquidations, and it's done fine, right? It's done really well actually. So I think this is the primary, trading based DeFi layer one of the bull run, and hence the reason why it's shot up so much in price, right? 16 billion market cap. So I want to say kudos to you Hyperliquid fans for finding this coin early. I got to respect it when I see it, right? But the multiples aren't there anymore. There's just not there anymore. I think it probably breaks 100 billion market cap, but I don't think it sustains that. So I'm going to put it beneath AVAX in terms of multiples. The next coin, Psy, it's very similar to Hyperliquid, but more so focused here on a general layer one application, just doing more broad things regarding DeFi. I think the multiples are obviously more than Hyperliquid because essentially it's a lower market cap at around $2 billion, you can see here. So I do think this coin probably does around about a 20 to 25x. Next is Aave. Aave is, guys, just a crazy coin this bull run. It is just dominating. So I do think this coin continues to do this. But how far? Well, I think a 40 billion market cap is probably on the money, maybe to 50 billion if it gets lucky, which is actually under a 10x, believe it or not. So I do think it deserves a spot down here. The next two coins are Aerodrome and Morpho. Both of these are on the Base network, actually working with Coinbase. Aerodrome works with Coinbase to expand Coinbase to a whole bunch more of the smaller coins that Coinbase can't, list on their website and on their exchange. So this is going to be used pretty heavily here by Coinbase. So I do think it does pretty high multiples at around a 700 million market cap. Morpho's a bit underneath it at a 600 million market cap. But Morpho is a DeFi lending platform, and you can see here, $2.5 billion is the current amount that's been lent out, okay, being borrowed by people. So I do think that they have pretty high growth potential. In terms of multiple, I think anywhere between a 25 to 30x. It's hard to really say with these coins because it depends on the success of Base, but because literally they're working with Base on their, two unique aspects, it's got to be somewhere above a 20x at least, in my opinion. So I'm going to put them in the high 20x column right now. I think Aero might just beat out Morpho because it's more sexy to the retail clients like you and I. I think Pith goes to just under a 30 billion market cap, which is about a 40x. So as a matter of fact, the coin is down a lot right now, but I do see around $5 being a decent all-time high of the coin. Okay, maybe a little bit less, but it's definitely underneath Aether. Now, Pith is an oracle just like Chainlink, but does less things than Chainlink, okay? However, it's the de facto oracle on Solana, so it's pretty big into that major ecosystem. These guys have over $1.5 trillion in total traded volume across their networks, which just keeps going up faster and faster. They also have 104 connected networks, which is more than Chainlink, and they also have $16 billion in total value secured. And as for Thorchain, the last DeFi project on the list, I don't think too much of Thorchain. Never really have, to be honest with you. Sorry, guys. This coin got into some strife recently as well with some of the validators, and I just don't really know where it could possibly go to. I'd rather not rank it than rank it somewhere where I think could possibly be way, way off. But I'm not too optimistic on Thorchain. The next three coins we have is Axelar, Layer 0, and Wormhole. These are all cross-chain projects, so they kind of sit in the middle of major networks and process the different transactions. They're all very similar in terms of like their overall numbers, but there is, I think, a clear number 1 and 2. So first of all, they're all pretty much the same market cap. So Wormhole's the highest here at 381. We have Axelar and then Layer 0, but much of a muchness. They're all down quite a bit. Layer 0 is down the least, Axelar the second least, and Wormhole is down 95%. It's hard with the multiples with these three, but I do think, again, Layer 0 and Wormhole will gain more market cap over Axelar. But if you have a look at it, I do think that Axelar likely has a good chance of going to an 11 billion market cap, and that would, roughly speaking, put it at about a low 30x to a high 20x. Now, I do think that Layer 0's market cap probably goes to around 50% to 2x higher than Axelar's at around a 20 billion market cap. But because of the unlocks, it actually won't be as many multiples. So I do think we probably sit somewhere around the mid-teens to high teens. So I'm going to put this just beneath Potenza. And I think that Wormhole actually goes to around the same market cap as Layer 0, which is funnily enough around 20 billion market cap. But the multiples here are much more, okay? Just because there's no major unlocks coming that will actually impact the price of the coin. So in this case, it's actually crazy because it's coming up at around a 50x, which is hard to believe. But I do tread with some caution because it did get into some hot water recently, and years ago it did have some hacks. So I do think there is a sizable amount of the population that knows about the coin that don't want to invest in it. So I'm going to mark it down a few points from here and put it around about the mid 30x, which is pretty surprising. But again, I think the coin is quality. Next, let's have a look at some privacy coins. I'll be very quick here. Monero, I don't think does any more than probably a 10x. If we scroll up here, Monero, okay, is a 6 billion market cap, and I just don't think it's as sexy as other coins. I'm going to put it just beneath Aave over here. Mina, this coin I've always loved, always believed in, very unique. The only problem with Mina is it hasn't really got that popularity side of things that I kind of spoke to you guys about before, okay? Now, the coin is down 98% from its all-time high of $9.90. I do think it gets there again. As a matter of fact, to be conservative, I think $7.50, which is actually around about a 36x. You guys know because I update you quite a lot on the RWA tokens because I do love them. So in terms of Ondo, I think this project has pretty high potential, guys. I'll be honest. I think around $20 could actually be the all-time high, which would put it, roughly speaking, in about a 21 to 22x. So I'm going to put this coin right above here, probably just beneath Axelar or on par with Axelar, I do think. Chainlink, okay, the market cap for this coin is a little bit too high, to be honest. I can't put it some crazy high valuation. I do think it probably goes to around 150, 200, which will be at a high of about $130 billion, which does make sense for a top quality coin like this. And so in that case, it's about a 12x. So it's probably going to be around here flirting with Hyperliquid. Centrifuge, I think a 3 billion market cap is quite realistic, which is about a 31x. So it does deserve a spot a little bit higher than that, just beneath Mina. As to Plume, it's like a mini Ondo, okay? Modularity Ondo, basically, if you know what that means. So essentially, I do think it does well. Not as well as Aether, but I think mid 35x potentially to about $3.50. Our next two coins are Polkadot and Cosmos Atom. Okay, large difference in terms of the market cap. Now, Polkadot does have some more sexy updates that are coming its way, like Jam, whereas I don't think there is anything or too much exciting stuff happening for Cosmos. But Cosmos, I do think, has a much larger variety of layer 1s underneath it. So it's hard to say because, again, we're looking at multiples here, but I do think Polkadot, generally speaking, just gets more adoption this bull run. So I do think DOT probably does sit somewhere around, a very, very low teens. And I think Cosmos actually probably does the same, if not slightly less, considering the market cap slightly lower. It might seem crazy, but I just don't think the interest is quite there. All right, let's have some fun. Layer 1 projects. I've got to do this quickly because I know the TikTok brain guys are out there like really pushing this one. So Flare, great project. It's definitely up there in terms of like dominance. Okay, it's doing really, really well right now. Like integrates a lot of these major like DeFi protocols into its layer 1 itself. I think it's got pretty good potential. Might be a little bit rude to do this, but I do think minimum 25x for this coin, so I'm going to put it right next to Wormhole. Cardano is pretty fat at $26 billion, so I don't think it does too many multiples from here. If it did more than a 10x, I'd be very, very surprised, because if it did more than a 10x, it would be over a 200 billion market cap. I do think, though, it will put in around about a 5 to 6x max, so middle of the pack over here. Injective, I think, goes to like $500. Call me crazy, but everything about this coin I love. So it's just beneath a 40x, but I am going to put it around about a 35x from these levels. Next is Solana. Honestly, I don't think it goes much more than $600 to $1,000. It's a pretty large gap, I know, but I wouldn't be holding my breath above 600, so I'm going to put it a little bit lower than Bitcoin Cash. Now, Sonic's the next coin. These guys are $1 billion market cap. They had a lot of attention at one point in time because they rebranded and everyone like caught onto it. I didn't buy into the hype because when you buy into the hype, you essentially are exit liquidity. So I'm going to put this in probably around a 15x next to Celestia. So as for Casper, I'm not a huge fan, I'll be honest with you guys. Great community, big community. That's a very big part of crypto, as you guys know, the whole popularity side of things. The reason why I don't like the coin too much is simply because I constructively criticized it. I got really slammed very hard for those things, even by the co-founder. Turns out now the coin's doing the things I recommended it had to do to kind of like grow. So it's always left a very bitter taste in my mouth and not the way that I think we should try to be doing things in crypto. So I'm not going to even rank the coin, to be honest. Sorry for you Casper fans. It's just not what I want to do. I do think probably around a 10 to 15x is probably where it sits anyway. As for Sui, you guys know I love the project. It's a pretty high market cap, but it's not high enough to where like the multiples are really stunted. So I do think it probably goes to around 25 to $30, which is around an 8x on the high side. So I'm going to put it over here just above Monero. The next coin here is Multiverse X. It is a shame. This coin, ever since their rebrand from Elrond, hasn't done really well. Or I can see here it's got like no dominance points up its belt. Again, I've noticed that the community behind it hasn't really been the same since. Honestly, the UI is probably the best in the space. The technology itself, if you dive into it, is second to none. It just doesn't have that same spark anymore, unfortunately. I do think it still does decently. I'm going to say probably around the low teens, probably 12 to 15x. So I do think it deserves a spot here higher than Hyperliquid, but not as much as Chainlink, I don't think. Now, Ton's a big one. Okay, it's Telegram's token, one of the higher market caps on this list here at 7 billion. I haven't done all that much research into this coin. I'll be very honest with you guys, so I'm not going to rank it. Now, HBAR is one of my all-time favorite coins. Okay, if you have a look, the project's a 10 billion market cap now. Gone are the days when it was $1 billion in the bear market. That was crazy. But I don't think it has many multiples still to go from here because I think it caps out at around a 70 billion market cap, give or take. It could definitely go higher, but that's me pushing it, I do think. So that's around $1.50. And in that case, it would be around about a 6 to 10x. So honestly, I do think the multiples here might be on the low side, but I want to be proven wrong because I think the coin is 10 out of 10 class. Always loved it, always will. Now, Quant is a coin that I've loved for a long time as well. Go have a look at my channel. It's like Quant after Quant after Quant mixed with HBAR. But unfortunately, I lost favor with this coin because it's not focused for crypto, right? My Pumpamentals, okay, it doesn't tick these boxes as much as other coins. So unfortunately, I let go of it. And do I regret it? No, but I think it will still do around $1,000, which is about a 10x from here. So I'm going to put it just above HBAR. The next coin is IOTA. I'm going to put this in the not the slightest clue list just because I once held it, I once loved it, but I'm just not too sure anymore. I haven't really kept up with the developments of the project, but I do know it's doing quite well at the moment. It's about 40% up on the week. The next coin is XDC, and I've loved this coin as well. Once upon a time, I did hold it. I think it does about a mid 24, 25x. So I'm going to put this well up here, probably above Sonic. Now, our next two coins are XLM and XRP. Now, in terms of the multiples for XRP, well, $10 is about a 600 billion market cap. I know you XRP fans want me to say $100, right? To go to a trillion market cap. I don't think so in this cycle, at least, right? I do think around a 2 to 3x makes sense. So in my opinion, probably does need to sit next to Bitcoin down here. But looking at this list, I do think it does similar to Solana and Ethereum. As for XLM, I mean, this coin's destroying the market right now. If I come and show you the gains it's doing, look at this. It's up 91% on the week. I think XLM has a big market here, and I do think the coin has pretty good multiples. But at a 90 billion market cap, which is around about a $3 token price, it's only about a 7x or so from here. So unfortunately, it doesn't quite break into this category. It could, there's always going to be outliers in this list, but I do think it probably deserves a spot somewhere around next to Sui. Now, looking at this list, do I think that we should move any around? Well, yes, I do, because I realized I made a mistake while I was ordering these. I do think that Aerodrome and Morpho deserve actually to be in the 20x column, not the teens. So this is more like probably up here, okay, somewhere around there. Now, I do think Beam does probably more than a 30x, I'll be honest, from these levels. It probably does closer to a 40, maybe even 50x or more. I just hesitate because if you look at a coin like Beam, for example, right, not many people see what I see, which is a coin might be down now, but it doesn't take much for these coins to go back up to their bear market highs of, like, for example, 4 cents, which means if it does go to like 40 cents, for example, it's only a 10x from there. They look at the huge gap from now and think, oh, it's got to do a 40 or 50x, okay? So I have to be a little bit cautious with this, as when the market starts moving, I have to be cautious not to move these up too high. But I think for the most part, these are pretty decent from now, besides the 1 or 2 mistakes I did make before with Aerodrome and Morpho. So guys, thank you so much for watching all the way through to the end of this video. I know it was a very, very long one, and thank you for sticking through. If you did make it this far, you can support all the work I've done here with checking out the links in the description, and most importantly, just hitting that like button. It does go a long way. Thank you. Bye-bye.